Cheryl Miller, always speaking truth, always gives a unique perspective on the basketball court. And it's nice for her to come out and she's constantly giving Caitlin Clark plays. She's constantly giving just women basketball players praise in general. And the way when she speaks, you listen because she is a legend. She is one of the pioneers of women's basketball. She is one of the GOATs. She is somebody that lives, breathes, and sleeps basketball and has always had a enormous impact when we talk about women's basketball. And she got a lot of people mad. She got a lot of people upset. And she got a lot of people angry and then are kind of turning on Cheryl Swoops. But we seen this before when it comes to Caitlin Clark. And if you have a different opinion from the masses, a lot of times you get the hate. And Cheryl Miller is getting some of this hate. Cheryl Miller is a legend. Cheryl Miller is Miss 105 points herself, one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game. It's unfortunate she didn't get a chance, opportunity to play in the WNBA, but she came out. She was on the All the Smokes podcast. Cheryl Miller basically stated her opinion and kept it real, and she kind of cut through the noise. She kind of cut through all the BS narratives that people try to come up with, that people try to say when it comes to Caitlin Clark, and she kept it honest, she kept it real. And that's something that is very appreciated, especially when you have a legend like Cheryl Miller. And sometimes when people talk about Caitlin Clark, they talk about women's basketball, they talk it in the eyes of how they personally feel and not what's actual reality. And I say this all the time, personal feelings aren't facts. And when we talk about the game of basketball, a lot of times in a men's game and in a women's game, it's becoming such a drama-filled league or leagues when we're discussing hoops and we're talking about everything besides the actual basketball product on the court. And we're going to react to, I'm going to play the social media clip from Cheryl Miller talking about Caitlin Clark and how she kind of understands Caitlin Clark's viewpoint because she had to experience things growing up and playing the game, especially in USC. And she also had the experience with just the overall hate. And then people try to pretend like it's not hate. And sometimes she even talked about how some of the hate that Caitlin Clark has brought on has been due to her cockiness. But that's the beauty of, that's the kind of hate that you love, like your cockiness. And it's more so on the lens of on the basketball court. And like, you're great, you're phenomenal. You got to have that type of dog in you to be one of the greatest basketball players in this world right now. And all the legends have that. When we talk about LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Stephen Curry, like Caitlin Clark, Diana Taurasi, like they have that like, yo, I'm him, I'm her. So she's also kind of talked about that as well. So we're going to get to Cheryl Miller.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a Black woman and hated because of my color.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised.
Mm-hmm.
And people just having, and look, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the good reason on the basketball court, the energy, the confidence, knowing that you are who they say you are, you living up to hype and you living up to expectations. And that comes from the work that you put in on a nightly basis when the cameras are off, when you could have been out hanging out with your friends, going to the movies, putting in that work. And then you see that work that you put in on the basketball court. That's why Caitlin Clark can act the way that she acts. That's why Kobe Bryant can act the way that they act. That's why LeBron, Stephen Curry, because it's practice. They put they've gone beyond those 10,000 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative wasn't the truth.
Mm-hmm. And this is what we talk about the game of basketball. Narratives come into play. People are trying to shape Caitlin Clark or shape certain, even Angel Reese. into things that really don't necessarily have anything to do with the basketball court because of their personal feelings about things that happen in college, or just may not particularly care for the actual individual instead of the actual product on the basketball court.
Right.
And Angel and her got along so well, and watching them practice. And yeah, just get it. And Caitlin's like, just fly, just fly, just fly. And watching her pass. And I didn't know how talented she was and how well she sees the game in a 3D version. Thinker defensively a lot better than I thought and gave her credit for. So watching her and just spending a little time. And one thing, guys, that I've learned is to step back and let these kids be themselves. Look, I speak when I'm spoken to. I'm not sitting up there knocking on anybody's door, offering my advice, because I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be social media, Instagram this. I don't know what it's like to be bombarded and have to be the breadwinner in the family and be a brand and be worried about what I do or say and everything else, and 24/7 being pulled in so many different directions and not knowing. I mean, throw in the fact that if I'm insecure, if I've got my own mental issues going on, who do I talk to? I don't regret being born when I was.
And Cheryl Miller brings an excellent point. It's so much pressure, so much expectation. And also, we live in a world where everything is 24/7. And it seems like athletes nowadays, it used to be a time where they can really just do what they love, play their sport, go to their job, which is their sport, and then come home and live their private life. Now with social media, now with every major athlete now having basically a personal brand and being their own brand themselves, it does bring a lot of added pressure that some of the legends and the old heads did not necessarily have to deal with. So it's always easy and for the older generation and the analysts to talk about what they would have did if they played in this era and how their game would have translated and all the money that they would have made. It's always easier looking on something now, but you weren't a part of it. So you don't know how your game would have translated. We don't know how your mental health would have been. We saw Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, the GOAT by most people, especially the older generation. He had to retire twice because of pressure. And I'm not saying like that was the overall reason why, but he talked about like the expectations and just wanted to go and gamble. He had to talk about his gambling. He's just having fun. He doesn't have a problem. So it's certain conversations that you can go view, that you can go pull up, and that you can go actually see for yourself, that old heads and old NBA players and WNBA players didn't necessarily have to deal with. Now, if the face of the league doesn't make a statement, if they make the wrong statement, if they don't make a statement at all, now you're ridiculed. Now you're talked about. Now you're constantly bashed. So it's just like, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't. And Cheryl Miller is basically saying like all the narratives that the media tried to place on Caitlin Clark and tried to place on this young lady, when she got around her, when she was coaching her, she was like, it's not true. And we have to give credit to Caitlin Clark, because to come in and have that level of pressure and have that level of hypeness, and to not only match that hypeness, but exceed that hypeness in your rookie year and going forward to be the face of the WNBA, and you're canceling out the noise and you're staying locked into your small circle and you're working on your craft and working on your game, because at the end of the day, what you do on the basketball court matters. Everything else that people try to make the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, all the politics, all the narratives, all that stuff doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's what you do on the basketball court, because that's what we know Caitlin Clark from, actual playing basketball. So, and Cheryl Miller also talked about, let's get to it.
Her game, but they won't recognize. She handled it in a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of
You know
hard,
what?
right?
And I used and you know, Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes.
Yes.
But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time.
After hours.
Sometimes
Same
maybe
work.
more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her
Mhm.
for what she was given. But you know, I mean, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are
It was-
still waiting for it to
exactly,
fall.
exactly.
And that's what I just talked about. It's so many times that people talk about Caitlin Clark and talk about her coming into the league and her having kind of like being like the savior, like they used to try to say those narratives. But it's like she came into the league. She arguably is the greatest college basketball player of all time on either sides. She came with a lot of hype. She came with a lot of expectations, and people wanted her to fail, and she didn't. She didn't fail. She exceeded expectations, and she showed that the hype is real, and she accomplished all the things that she accomplished and broke all the records that she broke in her rookie year, and was first team All WNBA member this past season in her rookie season. So it's just like you want to benefit from the hypeness, her impact, but you don't want to give recognition. And that's what a lot of times has been in question with everything that happened in her rookie season. So Cheryl Miller is 100% right. And it's just like, it's kind of dumb and it's kind of silly because at the end of the day, everybody's going to eat. Everybody's going to benefit. Everybody is going to get a piece of the pie due to you having a transcending star in this time period that hasn't happened, and we haven't seen this buzz and this excitement since the league first came about in 1996.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat. So that's the only thing. And thank God I don't listen to I don't follow social media, and I could really care less because I've been delivered from being a people pleaser and what you think about me.
Right. Me too.
But I will tell you one thing.
Wow.
I'm just glad that these young ladies who are at the upper tier players, I hope and pray that they have a solid foundation, and they know guys who they are, because you know how vicious it is out there.
Cheryl Miller kept it real. She cut through all the narratives. She cut through all the BS when she was talking about just her career, talking about the WNBA, also talking about Caitlin Clark. And no matter what people want to say, people can be upset at Cheryl Miller for telling the truth. People are saying like, oh, well, Cheryl Miller is kind of like, she is being biased. She's not being biased. She's just keeping it 100% factual. And that's why I was saying in the chat, I always call y'all truth tellers and wizards, because the truth is often uncomfortable, but the truth is necessary. And you need people in the media, you need former players that are going to not personalize things, not have a bias towards anything, but just going to strictly state the truth. And that's what Cheryl Miller did on the All the Smoke podcast when she was talking about Caitlin Clark. And now we see some fans being upset and turning on Cheryl Miller because she defended Caitlin Clark, which I believe is ridiculous. But no matter what people try to say, none of the issues that they have for Caitlin Clark or they have for her as a woman have to do with basketball. It's everything outside of basketball. And that's why Complex even ranked her, Caitlin Clark as the number one most influential female athlete right now, because she really is. And she's on her way probably be the most influential athlete for this next generation when we talk about the sport of basketball, especially when the old heads, LeBron, Stephen Curry, KD, and them retire. When we're thinking about basketball now, Caitlin Clark's name is mentioned in that same light. So the Clark effect goes well beyond her performance of basketball, which has a lot of people upset. But the truth of the matter is that Caitlin Clark has destroyed outdated narratives about women's sports, and also she's proven that women's basketball can be just as marketable, and just as respectable as the men's game. And that's why this draft class that she's been a part of, 2024 draft class, is 23 draft class is the most special draft class that we have ever seen, probably in the WNBA, because their impact is going to really help the WNBA grow tremendously. So say what you want to say, talk all these narratives. Don't give her credit. Don't respect the impact, but recognize game. And then you see the legends. It's nice to see a former legend in Cheryl Miller giving her the credit, giving her the flowers that she deserves, because it's hard when you really look at it in comparison to all the things that she had to deal with and all the hate that she kind of received. And some of it, once again, was due to her cockiness on the basketball court. But that's the part where it's just like, if you're hating on a person because you don't like their basketball game or they're cocky on the floor and you want them to lose because they're not your favorite player, that's something different. Everybody can respect that. It's people that are LeBron haters just because they don't like his play style. There's people that are Kobe Bryant haters because they think LeBron is better. The LeBron James haters because they think Kobe is better. Michael Jordan. That's fine. That's all fun. But when the hate goes from beyond the lens of the basketball court and beyond the lens of that what actually matters, that's when problems start to happen. That's when problems start to occur. And that's when narratives start to be pushed. And that's when the media plays a part in how people feel and the perception of a player, when at the end of the day, yes, these players have so much going for them, so much money that they can make, so much opportunity and marketability because of their own personal brand. But it used to be a time where I didn't have to know anything about anybody's personal life. I didn't have to hear any interviews outside the court. You didn't have to hear none of that. You could just appreciate the beauty and the essence of what they bring to the basketball court. But unfortunately, now, particularly in basketball, the game of basketball, it's a big problem when it comes to the way the media likes to control narratives, and the media likes to tell stories, and the media likes to dictate who's a hero and who's a villain, and the media likes to choose which player can get support and which player cannot get support, depending on the overall perception of how even players feel, fans feel, and even organizations and entire companies feel. And that is an actual problem. And that's why we can see last year with Caitlin Clark, the comparisons to the support that she should have got from the overall league, it was different than other players. So somebody says, please stop with the draft class. Yes, they're talented as draft, but when it comes to bringing essential eyeballs and asking CC if no one else in media likes to draft. So, Michael, I'm going to tell you the truth. Caitlin Clark is deemed the chosen one. I've always said that. Caitlin Clark is the transcendent figure. Caitlin Clark is a transcendent talent, just like LeBron James. LeBron James is a transcendent figure. He's a transcendent talent. LeBron James came from one of the greatest draft classes of all time, the 2003 NBA draft class that featured Carmelo Anthony, that featured Dwayne Wade, that featured Chris Bosh. And we look at it, LeBron James as the pillar of excellence, the pillar of greatness, but we also look at that draft class as well as them dominating and them helping prop up his greatness as well. So you can't say that the goal is to grow the WNBA. You need a transcending figure in Caitlin Clark, but you also need other pillars to help promote and help support that draft class, and also support her being the overall GOAT and coming from that draft class as well. We've seen it in history. It's not just the 2003 draft class. I can talk about the 1996 draft class. So it's part of history. This draft class with Caitlin Clark, regardless if they're never going to be as great as Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese was impactful. Cameron Brake is going to be a stud. Rickea Jackson is going to be a bona fide all-star or superstar someday. This draft class is very, very, like, Camila Cardoso, like she has potential to be one of the best centers in the WNBA someday. This draft class is going to be one of the best draft classes in WNBA history. And that's going to also help support the notion going forward of the WNBA growing. So you can't sit up and say that the draft class, I can't talk about the draft class because the fact of the matter is, even though Caitlin Clark, LeBron James, or Michael Jordan, they're hell of a great players, but their draft class helps support their overall greatness. LeBron didn't have to lift the league on his shoulders. The league was already uber popular. Popularized anyway was never on LeBron. And that's when we go to, like, you probably didn't watch the WNBA before Caitlin Clark came. Of course, the WNBA is growing more, is becoming more successful due to Caitlin Clark. Nobody is not saying that's not true. But the league had a big popularity when Cheryl Spruce, Lisa Leslie, Tina Thompson, like all those players, when the league first had the inaugural season, and then over the course of the career, things have kind of like hasn't been as great for that. Like in the 2000s stretch, there was a lot of issues that were happening with the WNBA, but Breanna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Maya Moore, like all of them, you have to give them credit for keeping the league afloat and help growing the league. And even before Caitlin Clark came, we talk about the Asia Wilson as well. Like it was still players that have helped the league get to where the league is going before Caitlin Clark even entered. And Caitlin Clark has said this out of her mouth, Michael. So I think I'm going to listen to Caitlin Clark. I think I'm going to listen to some of the legends. I'm thinking I'm going to listen to history more so than kind of like trying to listen to your statement respectfully. I just don't agree with it. But it's going to be interesting. And then speaking of like LeBron, and speaking of the LeBron James and Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers are 0-3 since LeBron James got hurt. And apparently LeBron James is day-to-day. It's not going to be out a week or two like reports were expecting. But it just goes to show you that it's crazy that LeBron James is 40 years old and his impact on teams is still very vital. And Luka Doncic had a phenomenal game yesterday against the Milwaukee Bucks. He had 45 points. He had 29 points in the first half. He had like 5 threes in the first half as well. He was really clicking on all cylinders. But the fact of the matter is the Los Angeles Lakers need LeBron James to be playing at a high level and need LeBron James to go on a deep playoff run and to be a title contender, because of the fact is Austin Reeves is great as your third best player. He's not great as your second best player. And that's what we saw last night. Like Austin Reeves is a connector, offensive connector. You can place him in any system. He's going to be a viable player. And he has really gone out and showcased his skill and his ability. And the Los Angeles Lakers have a three-headed monster when we talk about LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. But the Los Angeles Lakers need LeBron James on the basketball court. And even though Luka is getting back to himself, and he had an injury, and he's finding his rhythm, he's finding his groove with the Los Angeles Lakers, being 0-3 since LeBron James has been out, that's not nothing really good, because Luka Doncic, we've seen Luka Doncic carry teams. We've seen Luka Doncic basically be a young LeBron James. So we need Luka Doncic to be able to carry that mantle when LeBron James is getting hurt or when LeBron James is out, because you don't want to fall too much in the standings, because it's a 1-2 half game between who can be the second and third seed and who can be the 7 and 8 seed in the Western Conference. The Western Conference is very deep, but LeBron James is expected to return soon, and it's going to be great. And I expect the Los Angeles Lakers to get back to their winning ways, because when LeBron James and Luka Doncic on the basketball court and people were saying, oh, it's not going to work, a lot of people don't watch basketball. A lot of people don't watch the game. Sure, is it hard for those two dual forwards to be on the basketball court together? It's an awkward fit. Yes, it's not the perfect fit, but that doesn't mean we have one of the greatest basketball IQ and minds and players of all time on the basketball court who is unselfish. And you have his disciple who is one of the greatest basketball minds and young Coopers and young superstars in the game who is also unselfish. And LeBron James has been working on his kitchen three ever since he came in his three-point shooting ability, and even playing, people are talking about playing off ball. LeBron James has been playing off ball some in his Lakers tenure for a while now. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. I still think they need a center. Alex Len is horrible. He's he is absolutely horrible. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I feel like this is the year, even though they don't have a center, but they have size at the wings where they can play small ball, but they're not really giving up much in size because they have big wings. They have guys that they can go put out a lineup that's 6'6" and above from point guard all the way to center. So I think that's going to help them in the playoffs. But LeBron James' health is key. They don't do nothing without LeBron James. They can't win anything without LeBron James, and we're seeing that right now. So I appreciate y'all hopping in the chat. Mike, I appreciate you on my Wizards Truth Tellers, even though I don't agree with what you're saying. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on AKISS NBA on all the platforms, talking NBA, talking WNBA on Instagram, NBA threads, TikTok, all those great things. Always remember, faith without works is dead. And also always leave y'all with a statement. If you're new to my streams, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not into your own understanding, and always acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I'm gone. Shout out to the Truth Tellers, all the Wizards in the chat. I'm out, man. Peace.